This is Mark Guerrero. Welcome to East LA Music Stories. My guests are two members of the group Aztlan Underground. On the left is Yaotl, and on the right is Caxo. All right. Well, I'm going to use Wikipedia to describe them because I think it's a pretty good description. Aztlan Underground is a band from Los Angeles, California that combines hip hop, punk, rock, jazz, and electronic music with Chicano and Native American themes and indigenous instrumentation. They are often cited as progenitors of Chicano rap. So does that sound pretty good to you?
Yeah.
You can
Yeah.
accept that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I didn't know much about you guys because I moved out of East LA. 1990 is when I permanently moved out here to the Coachella Valley.
Hmm.
And you guys formed around what, 1989 or 1990?
Yeah, in like 88 we kind of intention towards it, and we had different names. We had we first were Escuche Sonidos Lógicos, like ESL, which was we were gonna call ourselves ESL, and then we changed to Brown and Proud. And then by 1990, we formally changed our name to Aztlan Underground in November 1990. But we were performing different places, like up north, Northern California, under those other names. We started out with three of us, and it was DJ Bean and Bulldog, and it was all hip hop with indigenous instruments. But first, it was just myself and Bean, and that's where we were ESL, and then we met Bulldog because he was the first kid on the block with a computer that I was able to sample and loop, and he was like an Amiga, and so we went over his house and we started looping stuff, and then when we were talking about what we were trying to be, we tried to be like a Chicano Public Enemy, um, and Public Enemy, as many of you might know, is like a Black liberation hip hop group that talked about their plight. And for us, we were very inspired by that. But also, we also came out of punk rock too, so it was very direct, and so we kind of spoke to us in that way. So we were talking about that, and then one day, Bulldog, he ends up he ends up rapping, and he's amazing. He's like honey, and I'm more like I'm like spice, and he's more like honey, because I'm more from punk rock and he has more hip hop. Um and so then we started as hip hop, just us three, Bulldog being he's now no longer in the band, but we're still friends. And myself, and then we moved into becoming a band in '94.
It says here that you trace your roots to the hardcore scene in the east side of Los Angeles. So describe what the hardcore scene was like back then.
Well, look, full disclosure, we're often cited as being like there was even a show where we played with the Stains, and others, and it was like the heavyweights of East LA. And but the reality is that we started out in San Fernando Valley in San Fernando, but it was very dead here, and like there was no audience, nobody to play to, no one was feeling it. People were just it just wasn't the vibe, and so we started playing at East LA College. East LA College had a lot of concerts that was going on, and even his brother, they're from Boyle Heights, Cinco Puntos. His brother's band and his bands would play out of there, East LA College, the student hall, and so when we were able to get a gig there, and man, we just got supported. So that's how come we're often cited that we're from East LA. But we actually now we have all East LA, Northeast LA, East LA, band members. But really, when we started, we're from the Valley, but East LA is where we got love. East LA is what put us on the map. Really, if it wasn't for East LA, we would not be where we are, to be honest with you, because it's just East LA had its own, as it's always had its own scene. Even late '70s, you read people's biographies like Keith Morris, Circle Jerks, for example, and Black Flag. These guys are from like Newport Beach. that area, and they were coming to East LA in the late '70s, checking out these brown punk bands, and then becoming inspired and creating these big punk bands that they did. But a lot of stuff came out of East LA, and I think we're one of the benefactors of the East LA scene that's always been strong. So hopefully you won't kick us off your show that that we're from
Oh,
the
hey, no, that's East LA, baby. I mean, East
yeah
LA College, and you said Cacho's from Boyle Heights.
yeah yeah
Yeah,
yeah.
can't get more East LA than that, man.
Go. Yeah, yeah.
But you guys are very powerful, man. I've seen a lot of your videos, and you remind me a little bit of Rage Against the Machine. Now, you guys could relate to them as well, right?
Right, right. Yeah, we have an interesting history with them because we started playing a lot of Chicano student events like all over, right? And so one of the persons became our first drummer named Rudy. He went to Cal State Fullerton. He was going to Cal State Fullerton, and he was wearing like a Chicano power shirt or Cheshire, whatever. And their Metro chapter, which is Movimiento Estudiantil Chicano de Aztlan student chapter out of Fullerton, went to the movies in Irvine, and they were in the movies in Irvine. And Zach, the singer, before they got signed, before they blew up, he walked up to them and he was like, "Oh wow, like I see all your t-shirts, like you guys are about the movement." And so our drummer at that time, he became real tight with Zach, and so we ended up playing, these national events, and Zach ended up, even checking us out, and we had like, our mailing list, and he signed it, and we actually hung out. He would come out visit us, and he really got along with Bulldog, our other, vocalist, who he would go jet skiing with him and stuff, and so we had like a good relationship with him, but then as he got signed and he blew up, I guess what I understand is that when you get famous and you get all kinds of money, you get alienated, and you feel everyone's trying to come at you. So he kind of
Mhm.
became a hermit, and but he did throw us a bone, if you will, and we played in 1999, opening up for Rage in Mexico City, Battle of Mexico City. So
Wow.
bless his heart, and so but it just was very just distant, just started distant. There was no bad blood or anything, and he's still very isolated per Tom Morello, he just has that nature. And so, but we have, we go back with him, and a lot of people have said that, like, oh, you guys remind me of Rage, and we've never really shared that with anyone really until now that we've had that relationship with them before.
Yeah, on the videos I was watching, you have like really strong, like a rock and roll band in the background, right? I mean, just really rocking hardcore with heavy rapping, which is very much like Rage Against the Machine. But obviously, you guys are very much pro-indigenous, and we're talking about worldwide indigenous.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
And what was it like? I mean, to play in Mexico City, Tenochtitlan, right? You're
Right,
right there in
right.
the Aztec capital,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
with your pro-indigenous music, how are you accepted down there?
Oh man, we got a lot of love. We have like, oh man, we have a lot of love. Like they've bootlegged our tapes, of Chopo, the how the rock swap meet
Mhm.
in Mexico City. They bootlegged our tapes. They've made their own T-shirts, their own T-shirts, and we got to play the Chopo, like what was it, 2006, right? Like, and man, we just have mad love, where they know our lyrics. I think pirating, right? It was obviously non-digital, but it was like people just like, like back in the day, like they just made copies of the cassettes and would just distribute them and sell them, and we don't mind. Like it got us out there. Oh, and in conjunction with Zach had a place called PRC, the Popular Resource Center, and there was a lot of caravans and interaction interfacing with the Zapatistas in the mid to late 90s, and so we would do a lot of events out there and play like in '99, but we would do these events called for La Consulta, which is Zapatista way of engaging democracy, asking for people's what they really feel is needed, and trying to do direct democracy. And so we would play these gigs, and one of the gigs was in Nezahualcóyotl, which is if you know Mexico City, you know that it's a really hardcore little area that is known for, just roughneck basically, right? And we played there, and then to our great surprise, we played one of our songs, My Blood is Red, and they knew the lyrics, especially because the middle part is all in Spanish, and they were all singing the lyrics, and it was super amazing. Like, so so we've been lucky to be supported in Mexico City, and because as you probably noted, we really synthesize our indigenous instrumentation, right? And so we've been cultivated a relationship with one of the pioneers of reconnecting with our indigenous instruments, and that's Tribu, who, they started in '73, and they started by playing indigenous instruments in the front of the Museum of Anthropology in Mexico, and they ended up making their own instruments, and they end up wanting to get access to the instruments that are in the museum, and they end up asking the museum, "Hey, can we have access?" And they said, "No, until you become an ethno musical archaeologist, can you get access?" Well, what did they do? All three of them became musical archaeologists, and they got access. And we've been blessed on what was it last year?
I think like sometime last year.
We got to get a workshop where they taught us how to make clay flutes, and then also the wetwets, so but also just to interface with them and play with them, and that's what we've been kind of moving towards. And thanks to Cacho, who he has talk about East LA. He has such a mean history in all these bands, like his first band, Chronic Catastrophe, right, and then Te Sacrifico, um, and also what Contraataque. He joined in the band like in 2003. He really commanded the wewet, and I think a lot of our power comes out of his ability to play the Mesoamerican ancient drum, the wewet, and do what we do. But I don't know if you want to talk about you.
Cacho, so you were already into the indigenous instruments before you joined?
I was, but not too knowledgeable of it. I just at some point I was asked to play it and perform with other groups, but not until I started doing music with them that I really was given like the ability to expand on it, to learn more about it and stuff. Like I didn't really come from like going to danza and so, a lot of them are keepers of the history and the knowledge of those instruments, and I didn't come from that. And being around them, which they have had some of that knowledge, were gifted some of that knowledge, and I was able to learn more about those instruments.
So those groups you were in that he mentioned, what style of music were they playing?
They're more similar to his background, which is like punk and metal and rock. And my brothers before me
Yes.
performed in groups in East LA in the early '80s as well. And I used to go. I was just a chicle, if you don't take me, my mom said you guys can't go, So I was like 13, going to backyard shows, like just watching a rock show, like it was amazing, I was the one who would carry the drums and the roadie, and watching them make out with girls and stuff or whatever, and I'd just be like wow, and stuff. But so yeah, I got a chance to see some of that in the early '80s, mid '80s, more like,
Those punk parties, right?
yeah, even more rock, just like rock stuff, like not necessarily punk where it was rebellious. Well, I guess all rock music is rebellious, but like to that extent, it was more like just rock and roll, hard rock kind of music,
A lot of those backyard parties happened because there were no venues, right? So people just have their own things.
Yeah, there was nothing. There was some like the Paramount Ballroom at the time was open, um, and
Oh, wow.
yeah, and a few places, the All Nations on Soto, yeah, and then again, East LA College Student Center and so forth. high schools, Roosevelt, Garfield, just sometimes Wilson. They'd have like talent shows, and they would, allow them to play. So, but most mainly backyards, and wow, what I mean, backyards were just amazing because just it was there was no like, you stand in line and you get in and you pay for, it's just someone's backyard, you move the chickens to the side, you you put something in front of the vegetables to protect them, it turns into a little community, like a little community of just your neighbors and people that come from all over to see and hear music, and just a beautiful community. And there's nothing there to this day. Like I don't think I've ever had any, like a better, more like sense of closeness of community in the music scene than backyard parties. Like
So all that music influenced you also.
big time, big time. It
Yeah.
was just, I'd see them on stage, being 13, like, people that looked like me, that, had like, were darker than me, like, that you would never see on a stage, I would never see anything like that on stage. And I just, so seeing someone, with dark, straight, long hair, brown, dark brown, beautiful skin, playing really energetic music, and everybody else looking at them. It was a big deal for me, like at the time. So
And you certainly didn't see that on television.
not at all, no.
No, no, no. And didn't Chendo, rest in peace, he played East LA College too, right? He
Yeah.
played, yeah, right?
Yeah, he would.
His
And
brother.
yeah,
Yeah.
Rudy as well, my brother
Yeah,
Rudy.
yeah.
Yeah, just they were, they had a band called Screamer at the time, and they'd play wherever they were able to. At Belvedere High School, they had like talent shows in Belvedere High School, and they played
Junior high school, right? Or
junior high school. I'm
school.
sorry. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
get it right,
Hey,
Mark.
man,
Yeah.
I went to Griffith and I went to Garfield.
Oh, nice.
I was around there. Yeah, middle school they call it now. It's junior high
Oh,
back.
now, yeah, exactly.
Junior high back there for us. Yeah.
Right, right. So,
So when did you join Aztlan Underground and how'd that happen?
I think it was late 2002,
Yeah.
but 2003 we're performing.
For
Like,
sure, yeah.
yeah, just I honestly I had just finished playing with these bands, and I was kind of done with it, like bands are like families, so there's all kinds of different just like families, you have all kinds of different people are different, and so you deal with things, and you love each other, and you take care of each other, and sometimes it's just too much. And at the time I was kind of just done with it. I was like, I'm not great at anything, but I could do music on my own, so I started doing some of that. And then a friend of ours, his name was Hunter from
Yeah, oh yeah, Flagstaff, huh?
from Flagstaff. Yeah, he's Diné, Mexican,
No, Dakota.
just Dakota,
Yeah,
and Diné. And he came over, and we just he came over. I think he came to record some stuff, and we're just hanging out. And he's like, "Hey, my friends from Aztlan Underground asked me to perform with them later on. You want to come?" And I mean, so I said yes, and we went, and we ended up performing that day.
Yeah.
At the,
Was it the Soul Fest,
yeah,
right?
the Soul Fest, and I always tell the story, and it's kind of, maybe it's cheesy or something, but we performed. I performed with them. They did their thing, and I just kind of like try to back them up on the Wewet. But here we were, like playing probably a couple of hundred people or something.
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
beautiful I think it was at the old zoo
Old Zoo, yeah.
in
Griffith Park.
Griffith Park, yeah. And here he was, and we were playing, performing, and the crowd was cheering after. It was a great show. And then after that, the show ended, and then there was like a lot of junk, trash, and all that, And after the show, he just, Yaotl went and started like picking up the trash and throwing things out and just helping like a community, like a community would, like they put together a show, and then after that they clean up, and I had never seen that. But it was just beautiful to see him getting off the stage and just like cleaning up and all that. And I was like, oh man, let's, and it was that just kind of sold me in a sense, It was just like, wow, like this is the kind of family I want to be in, this is kind of the community I wish to be part of. So, and from there on, we've been playing ever since. I was around 2002,
Yeah.
2003.
Yeah, and he's to me like the heart and soul, like, because even just his intention, his heart, and he plays so amazing. He's a amazing drummer, like, but he's so humble, right? Like, and I think he helps convey the energy and intention of what we're trying to do, right? And so it's really, really great to play with you.
You had mentioned that that guy was Dene. A lot of people don't know that that's the real name of the Navajo.
Yes,
Right,
uh-huh.
And Dene means the people.
right.
Right, exactly,
Pretty
exactly.
cool. So speaking of terms, how about the term Aztlan? So I've got a definition. Give me your definition of Aztlan and why you chose it for your name.
It's a trip, but I'm glad you brought that up because when we started, I don't know if you noticed if you've seen our Instagram, but we put Aztlan Underground, aka Nahuatl Underground, right? Now Nahuatl means land between two waters, in Nahuatl, and the reason why is that the old school definition, Chicano movement of Aztlan was, pretty much that Aztlan was the stolen, the annexed lands from Mexico that U.S. took, right? California, Utah, Nevada, Arizona, Texas, etc. And um, so when we were becoming aware of our roots and being inspired to talk about who we are as indigenous people and how we have a right to exist, for us, we embraced the idea of Aztlan because it gave us a sense of self and belonging, and that we're not wetbacks, and illegals. I was brought up, like I said, in the Northeast San Fernando Valley, and at the time, there was a lot of descendants of the Arkansas, Oklahoma Dust Bowl that worked in the fields here in the valley. The valley was all a lot of fields, a lot of, oranges, a lot of back in the day, and so I grew up with a lot of hostility, a lot of from teachers to parents to I got bullied, walking to school. I joined the gang because to protect myself from these white supremacists, right? So because it was always beaner, wetback, legal, wetback, beaner. And so in learning about yourself and your culture and going, what? Like, man, we're from these lands, we're from this continent, and here you're calling us wetbacks and illegals. And so that's how come we started to empower our people and give them a sense of belonging. So then we embrace the term Aztlan because we're like, okay, look, man, there's history here. This used to be Mexico, quote unquote. But as we started decolonizing, we realized that, the definition of Aztlan as the stolen or the next states of Mexico, it really was two colonial powers, one colonial power taking the other, colonial powers' lands, because when Mexico gained their independence, they upheld Spanish ideas of viewing indigenous people who our roots are, right? Like, and that's our whole basis why we exist, is that we exist to try to instill, reconnect, revive who we are, our original roots. Like we're brown because we're indigenous, right? So when we look at the whole historical idea of Mexico, when it became independent, it remained colonial. In fact, in the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, there's Article 11, which I had seen a post, which I really dug, and I was going to share it on my our IG, and it talks about how yeah, we enter an agreement with the U.S. to help us quell these hostile indigenous savage people, right? So it shows you that the Mexican government remained colonial, and people probably get shocked if I say that, but that's why we try to share with people that we're older than the U.S., we're older than Mexico, the idea of Mexico now, and for us, Aztlan now, for us as we decolonize, Aztlan, for us just is a historical reference of how we have always been a migratory people. We have always been migrating north to south, back, and all indigenous people. So it's just a reminder that we're connected to this continent whether it's colonially called US or Mexico, and we've been migrating. In fact, the Hopi, their oldest clan is the Parrot clan, and they're here in the Southwest, and the Parrots only exist where Mesoamerica is from, right? And then even the Dene, like talking about the Dene and the Apache, they came 700, 800 years from northeastern woodlands of Canada down here. So like it's just, all humans migrate and all humans have the right to seek out a better life, just like how we're dealing with this whole colonialism in our face with the detentions just straight up, and they're saying it's getting criminals. They're just getting anybody to get out of here. Well, we have the right. We're a part of the economy. We help the economy uphold the economy. So consequently, down the line, we're going to feel all the ramifications of taking all of our people out of here, And so that was why we exist, to like empower people. No, you don't. We're not illegal. No, they're the ones telling us we don't belong, and we have the right to migrate. We are from this continent. Our DNA, even the language families are all connected, But of course, we respect the sovereignty of the original California people here, right? The Tongva, the Quiche, the Gabrielina, Shoshone, that they have their own names, but they're really all villages that we're all here, right? And the Hapchevit, the Yuhaviatam, right? Like we respect and uphold, amplify the original lands that we're on. And the reason why that's so important is because they are the caretakers of these lands, right? And they're the ones that hold the key to even, control burning, which would prevent these fires, but that's also part of the climate, issues. But at the same time, how to maintain the water, how to not pollute, how to be caretakers, because indigenous people throughout the continent have they for thousands of years know how to maintain the lands, how to make live in harmony, and that's what will sustain the generations to come. So it's not only about indigenous people, it's not only about us or the California indigenous people, but it's also for the sustainable future for all generations, all peoples, all colors. That's the beauty of indigeneity, right? Is that we know that we are all human beings, like you said. Didn't they call themselves the human beings, the people, right? And that's the bottom line, is that we're all human beings, and we all have the right to exist. And everyone really wants the same thing. They want sustainability, they want safety, they want to be able to eat. They want to live in peace, right? And we don't see peace in Palestine. We don't see peace under colonial governments and power systems, right? And so that's what we're about. It's amazing, God. That's what we're about. That's yeah.
A mouthful.
Yeah.
What it comes down to, this is our homeland.
Yeah.
It's our homeland in terms of our indigenous roots, but also our Mexican roots.
Mhm.
We were here long ago
Yes,
and,
exactly.
and have been. So,
Yeah, exactly. And that's how we use Aztlan now. It's like a migratory like testimony. Like we've been here, we are, and we have been going. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. What I learned about Aztlan was the fact that the Aztecs were a nomadic people for hundreds of years. They were nomadic, and one of their chiefs came up with that idea: we will build a city, we will settle where we see an eagle with a serpent in its mouth. And they saw that in what is now Mexico City on Lake Texcoco, and that's where they built their city. They said they were originally from Aztlan. The Aztec people said we came from Aztlan, and a lot of people believe Aztlan was the American Southwest.
Right.
And there's a lot of reasons for it. Language, like say the Apache language is similar to Nawa, the language of the Aztecs. Clay pipes. There are certain things that are the same and similar linguistically, things that they used in their culture. So, many believe that's where the Aztecs originated. And I think that's probably true.
So yeah, even though we are trying to understand these things, I mean that's where we like kind of shifted from the old school Chicano movement idea of Aztlan, is that doesn't mean that we have gives us right to anyone's lands, or calling their what they call their traditional territories now Aztlan, which just means that we have our own migratory history, right? Because that's we got hit up when we were playing different reservations. I got hit up at Hopi Land, from Good Brothers and Daneta, which is Navajo land. I got hit up, hit up by Tone Autumn, like, oh, what's this with Aztlan? You want to take over my land, you want to like, and there's even been like, oh, comparing it to Israel, oh, you're the new Israel taking over indigenous people. I'm like, wow, like we're not, no, like that's not the paradigm we use it in, like, and we're no entity completely 100% supported by imperial power with, guns and money, sounds like it's ridiculous, but it has been, I guess, offensive to, many indigenous people in the Southwest when they hear Aslan that they think that that's what we mean, right? And that's what it's about. And I think what amplifies that is that there's like this flag that shows barbed wire around the Southwest states, right? And so that kind of propagates that idea and impression. That's why we try to unpack it, and I'm glad we have the opportunity space here to like talk about no, it's beyond this, and it's not the Western paradigm how we use it. It's just history and our sense of self and being, right? So thank you for allowing us to have the space to talk about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, it's not we're trying to take over the country. We're trying to say, don't kick us out of our own home.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there you go. There you go. Yeah.
And remember that movie years ago? Did you ever see that movie, A Day Without a Mexican?
Ooh, yeah, right?
Right? That sort of illustrates what's happening now. You kick out these so-called illegals, the undocumented, who's going to work the fields, who's going to do all the low-income jobs, the maids in the hotels, the car wash people, the gardeners. You kick them all out, the economy's going, and they're seeing it
Yeah, it's gonna happen. It's
already.
yeah, we're gonna see exactly. Thank you.
It's always been a part of the economy.
Exactly. Exactly. Absolutely. 100%, man. 100%. Mark. Thank you. It's just an honor for us too to be interviewed by you. Like, you are a descendant. Your pops. And being Lalo Guerrero, man. Like I was sharing with you how my pops with back in the day. My father is from Mexico City actually, and he actually came up because he was so inspired to be like to see the Pachucada, and so he came up in as a bracero like in 41, and so he would dress, like have zoot suit, but he get beat up by the pochos because he was like speaking Spanish, right? But he knew what was up, and he would go see your dad, man, and he would go see your dad in East LA, and you mentioned Lincoln Heights, but you told me about another spot, and that was probably where what maybe he meant, and then right before my pops passed, and I mean, I think your dad outlived my dad, but he played San Fernando High, which is close by here, and I was able to take him, and there's a picture, and I was hoping to try to find it before we got on the Zoom, but and it's your dad and my dad's I think in a wheelchair. Your dad, like right there with my dad. That's like to me, it's like damn, man. So it's total legacy, man. So like, perhaps you're like royalty, bro. Like
If you find the picture, send it to me. I can show
I
it.
will, man. I
Yeah,
definitely.
that'd be awesome.
Yeah, hell yeah, man. That's
Yeah.
what's up.
Anyway, let's see what else. So you guys made a lot of recordings, right?
In '92, we made a single. That's like a cassette single with one song on one side, song on the other. And in '92, and it was like to commemorate the 500 years of indigenous resistance, right? The commemoration 1992, 1492, and so it was a song called October 12th, F that, and then with a song called Browns Against Browns. And then in '95, we released a hip hop album fused with indigenous instrumentation called Decolonize, right?
Mhm.
Decolonize, and it has a famous painting by Salomon Huerta, who's out of Hazard, Ramona Gardens, that is, and it's a very iconic. I mean, I think album cover. And then, but by that year, that's when we started becoming a band, 94, 95, and then we released 98 Subversives, which is a hip hop, rock, punk, indigenous album that needs to be released digitally because we were sold out of CDs. And then we did a single in like 2001 or 2000. Yeah, 2001, we did a single called Have Nots that actually got played on K Rock, whatever. And then we released, well, we recorded in 2006, but it didn't come out until 2010, a self-titled called Aztlan Underground. And it's kind of like prog rock, indigenous, very cathartic uh piece. It's like every song is like like 8 minutes, 9 minutes.
Yeah.
And Cacho, amazing drumming is on that, and that's on Spotify, and Decolonize and the subtitles on Spotify. So is Half Nuts on Spotify, and then we did Black Lives Matter, which is a little vinyl single before the whole George Floyd thing came out. Right, we released it I think in 2017, 2018, and that was just to be in solidarity with the impunity of Black lives being lost under police brutality, and it was like it was like really like endemic part of the system, systemic, right? So we did that, and to show solidarity between Black and brown people, because there's not enough of us reaching out and being in solidarity with all. And so we did that, and then we just released an album or records, right? It came out in October, right? Yeah, like, and it's called Aztlan Unearthed, because we do all indigenous instrumentation, which is like no vocals, no, it's just you know uh drumming, wah powwow, but flutes. Bulldog plays flute, Joe plays flute, and I play a little bit of everything, just more kind of percussive. I join him on percussion too, but I also do, like thunder drum, ocean drum, like bird whistle, like a lot of things. But it's really like its own magical experience, like a Mesoamerican, and that's where Tribu. We had a beautiful opportunity. We were able to receive a grant, because we also reconnect our Mesoamerican. When I say that, I mean, Mexicano, Guatemalteco, Salvadoreño, to their roots. And we do it through music workshops. And we got a grant to do that. And to strengthen what we do, we were able to meet with Tribu, and Tribu trained us on the more things to hone our. And so Unearthed album is reflective of that. And right now, to this year is 30 years since Decolonize came out, and we want to release a vinyl. And that's one of the things I was supposed to follow up on something to get that going before the end of the year. We want to reissue Decolonize on
I
vinyl.
have it right here, right? This is it.
Hey, whoa! Look at him! Yeah.
But yeah, man. So let's discuss some of the titles on here, and if you want to say something about any of the songs. Killing Season, what's that about?
Oh, Killing Season is about the gang warfare that or the killings that kind of increased during the summer months, right? There, when a lot of activity happens, a lot of collateral damage from 3-year-olds killed in the crossfire, especially that was written in the 90s, and the 90s, as you know, was very, very, very hectic. A lot of guns. Everyone had guns, it seemed like, and so that song was really kind of like a reflection of our sadness, and also a statement of like to try to stop gang warfare and the random killings of each other, and the collateral that sometimes include young children being a stray bullet, right? And it happens in the summer, so the song's based around the summer when it increases, right? So that's what that's about.
Okay. What about My Blood is Red? I saw that video. It's powerful. So what's the idea of that song?
So yeah, so My Blood is Red is really kind of like a narrative. It starts out with a spoken word that is a narrative about uh our colonial experience, where we have been inculcated with our through Spanish colonialism, where we've been kind of made to feel, or made or conditioned to feel, that our indigeneity is less than, doesn't matter, that we should be ashamed of it, right? Because with the Spanish caste system, you created the situation where even in Mexico to this day, to call yourself an Indio is the worst thing, right? When that's what our roots are. And it starts out with a narrative about how the Spaniards came, and then they came and they raped, and they beat up, and they abused, and we've inherited that. But our roots still run deep, deep in the soul of our mother. So it's like, so then it's all like talking about the confusion of that, but the liberation of that. They call us wetbacks, and we're talking about, but we're not wetbacks. We've been here for thousands of years. So it's kind of like an unpacking of our colonial experience, but at the same time, uplifting and empowering. In fact, that's one of our most listened to and popular songs according to Spotify stats. And every time we play, we're always asked, "Oh, you play My Blood Is Red." So we play it live too now. So not only in the hip hop versions, we play it live. Yeah, so yeah.
I wrote a song on 79. It's a immigration song. And the last verse, they say go back where you came from. They always seem to forget that I was here many thousands of years and I'll be here for thousands more yet, you know.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, I love that. I love
Every
that.
time I sing it, I choke up, you know.
I love that, man. Oh man, that's the best.
So here's some other titles that are interesting. Here's one, Blood on Your Hands, who you're talking to on that.
Yeah, so that one really kind of like talks about really imperialism and colonialism worldwide, and how like our experiences are like they connect with everybody, and there's an economic system which i.e. capitalism, imperialism that really is kept in power by oppressing the other nations, but in that way there is solidarity, and so the maintainers of that power system worldwide have blood on their hands. So that's really what that song's about.
Okay. And one more title here, A Natural Enemy. Who are you talking about there?
Yeah, so that one really was inspired. I mean, this is total right 90s era, but still look at what we're dealing with right now. Like you said, we're still in a situation. That one was inspired by Prop 187 because Pete Wilson at that time was trying to uphold a policy that really took benefits, took liberties from quote unquote illegal people, right, undocumented people, and was very oppressive. And so the song talks about like we're the ones that wipe your little colonizer babies but we're the ones that are in the fields, and we're the ones that doing your labor, and yet here you attack us, and we have a legacy here. So, and really our ancestry and our being is really with nature, of nature. So that makes you our natural enemy. So that's how that
I see.
started.
So you're mentioning you've visited indigenous peoples. You mentioned the Hopi. Did you ever go to the Three Mesas?
Oh yeah, yeah. Not with the band, but personally, we went there to Second Mesa actually, and thankfully we have relations there. Shout out to, someone at Tutsi and Yaotl and stuff. So like if it wasn't for them, like we wouldn't have experienced like we actually were able to go to some Kachina dances out there that like
Wow. I read a book years ago on the Hopi and I learned about those mesas and I once drove by them just to look at them, but I thought, boy, I'd sure love to visit one, especially that oldest one. Did you ever go to the
oh
Lakota
yeah, we
Sioux?
played in not Rose Pine Ridge. We played in Pine Ridge, huh?
Yeah, boy. The
Yeah.
greatest book I ever read on Native Americans is um, Black Elk Speaks. Did you ever read
Oh
that?
yeah,
Did
love
you ever
that.
read
Yeah.
that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and that's it's from the Lakota point of view.
Oh,
And that's if anybody reads any book, check that out because it
yeah.
tells what life was like before the white man came, and then talks about even the Custer battle
Yeah.
and from people that witnessed it, you know. The
Yeah.
Black Elk, this was, I think he was interviewed, the chief in the 30s,
Hmm.
and he was a kid during a Wounded Knee. So you got an insight into the whole world of the Sioux, and it's another place I always wanted to go to Pine Ridge. So
Yeah, but he still had that sacred knowledge, right? And he still conveyed it. Like, oh man, super amazing. Yeah, super.
yeah,
Yeah.
hell of a book. Um, I interviewed you guys years ago for the Great Day in East LA project with Piero Giunti, my partner,
Yeah. Yeah.
and you mentioned that you guys had gone to Australia at one point.
Mhm.
Was
Yes.
that was that before Caxo joined?
Yes,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
was.
Right before.
So
Right
tell me about that. And you
before.
hooked up with the Aboriginals there, right?
Yes, yes. So we have a friend, Christina Veran. She's actually Quechua, but she is the one who actually facilitated our invitation to the Adelaide Music Festival, which is was a traditional and modern music festival. So it was very beautiful. They had like um, you know, dancers from Kenya, hip hop from Kenya. They had Pueblo dancers. They had Maori people and Maori rappers. They had Aboriginal Aboriginal dancers and cultures, different nations from Australia representing, and also Native Rhyme Syndicate, which is a Aboriginal group, like native group. Really amazing festival that we were blessed to be part of, and how it started out, which was very interesting because Lakota and other nations, honor the whole four directions and the four colors of people. And so when it started, it was a convergence of the four directions and four, you know, all uniting together. That kicked off the conference. So it's really beautiful. I mean, you had indigenous people from Fiji, from Solomon Islands, uh, hip hop, traditional dancing, the way they dance, super amazing. We had kangaroo meat. No, Joe got to try it. I didn't, but it was just such an amazing event, and so powerful and uplifting. We were gifted by the Maori people um, with some gifts, and it's just really like life changing, life moving, and
They're from what is now New Zealand, right?
yeah, yeah, Maori are, yeah, what they call Aotearoa, and but colonially New Zealand. And the as you might have the audience might tell that we're very outspoken, we're very direct, and in Australia, after we did our final concert, we did it under a statue of the Queen Elizabeth. So we had the other Aboriginal people that they helped. We covered the statue of the Queen Elizabeth, and we did our set. And then after this elder, who interestingly, he didn't really speak English much, and he gave me and he's from Arnhem Land, and he said, "Hey, like." They say, "Oh, Uncle wants to tell you something." I'm like, "Okay." Like, so they're interpreting for me, and they're like, Uncle says you have powerful way with your words. Uncle says, you're speaks with fire." So he like, man, like, gifted me with that name, speaks with fire. I
Nice.
wrote it down and I have it somewhere, and I tried to find it, but the actual Aboriginal in language of how to say that in it, but yeah, but he called me speaks with fire, so it was a very moving, connecting time,
Yeah, that's just so beautiful because indigenous people all over the world, they all share the common fact that they were conquered and colonized. So it
Yeah,
should be a brotherhood among all indigenous
yeah,
peoples.
and they all protect the land. They honor and understand the importance of protecting the land all over. And if you look statistically, wherever indigenous peoples are in control of the land that they maintain in the land is ecologically um safe. It's ecologically, beautiful and maintained,
Of
right?
course, because that's always been the Native American and indigenous philosophy. Respect the land, you know, you use a plant, you thank the plant, you know. If you kill an animal, use every part of it.
Yeah.
And that whole thing, it's ecologically sound. And it was the philosophy of the other people, the conquerors that came in that had no sense of that. And we're paying the price now, how polluted the earth is.
Yes, yes, yes. That's right, man. 100%. That's exactly what it's about, Mark. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Beautiful, man.
So you guys also went to Canada, didn't you?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Right. Like we want to speak on that because
Yeah.
he had a wonderful time. Yeah, like
Oh no, we're just yeah, we've been invited a couple of times, and it's always been amazing because we feel like brothers and sisters, with all the nations up there, like the Nuchanuth. They took us in, like their arms. They just made us feel welcome, and every time we were out there, it's like medicine for our souls,
yeah.
because they're they've only known colonizers for the past 100 years or so.
Mhm.
So they're still really attached. They know their languages. They have, and they're what maybe a few generations before us were dealing with, like uh, fighting deforestation and so forth. They're dealing with it now. That's going on now, and so just it's just beautiful to see the resistance, and also heartbreaking as well. Like so we just try to encourage and help as much as possible to see them in that position. It's hard to see, and so we just try to support them as much as possible there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And how we end up connecting with that is like, and this is like, I think important for those independent artists because we're independent. Like we recorded by major labels in 94, 93, then again in 98, right? But we were never we were never signed or whatever. And for us, it doesn't matter because it's really about what we do. I mean, yeah, of course, it'd been nice to just make a living off doing music, but we still have had a wonderful experience. So when we released Subverses, we had taken it up on consignment, total independent, right? We had a Chicano Records label. We have a little collective called Chicano Records of Film or Chicano Revolutionary Front, Chicano Rebel Familia, XRF. And I took a bus trip with CDs, boxes of CDs, and I went and put them on consignment in the Bay Area, in San Francisco and Oakland. And so this Canadian, revolutionary rock, rap core woman named Megan, she was in this band called Chapter Che 127. She saw my our CD, and she bought it. And turned out she was part of a organizer of the Under the Volcano festival in Canada. And so Under the Volcano is inspired by the book Under the Volcano, and it was put on by this other guy, Erwin Ostendale. And so it was there that they invited us because she bought our CD, she loved it, and she invited us. So we played in 2000, year 2000, and then that year 2000 we met this brother Split in the Sky, who we ended up um, going with him to a book tour in 2001, right before 911. We were at 911 at the towers, um, like 9 hours before because we went on a book tour to this brother Split in the Sky, who also is a famous native resistor from up there with another elder who's now passed as well. But they did a resistance at Gustafson Lake. Wolverine. Wolverine is the other elder, and so we got to connect with a lot of people, and then eventually West Coast Warriors Society, and they brought us up to perform, and in 2006, right, and then subsequently we came down again. I want to say 2008. And then we were invited up. The last 2 years, every summer. This summer, well, I think we're invited, but to this thing called the Two Rivers Remix Festival, and it's very amazing. It's interior British Columbia, and the festival goes to all the different nations like Lillooet and Secwepemc peoples, like a lot of villages. Like we went to different villages and performing for all the communities, and it's super amazing with other native artists from throughout Canada, and there's some Meso presence there too. Other artists there, just so beautiful, like such a really amazing, empowering, uplifting, affirming. Like Gacho said, like here, you get a lot of pushback, like, oh, Chicanos aren't native, like sometimes.
Oh, yes.
Not all the time, right? But sometimes, oh, you're not native, man. You're just yeah, but that's their own native colonial, their colonized mind, right? But up there, like I was saying, brothers, like, what's up? They even got Zapata on their wall, huh? Like Terry and Zapata on their wall. Like, you get me?
Yeah.
Like, they know. Like,
I got a story. After I read that book, Black Elk Speaks, I wrote a song called Blood on the Sun. It's a
mm,
really strong,
mm,
pro-native song. And somebody I knew took it to somebody on a Cherokee reservation. And the guy, instead of being happy, I wrote such a beautiful song, so pro-Native American. He said, "Well, what's that guy doing? He's not a Native American, Like he got
oh,
pissed instead of
wow,
being happy, you know.
wow,
And number one, he should have been happy if anybody did it. But
right,
secondly, we are indigenous.
exactly,
Mexicans have a lot of indigenous blood,
exactly,
and
exactly.
three of my four grandparents look totally Native American.
Yes,
And
yes,
so people
yeah,
get all confused about North American Indians, Mexican Indians. They're all Native Americans. They're all related in some way.
yes,
There were no borders before Columbus came, and
yes.
let's get it straight.
Yeah. So refreshing to hear, man. Definitely, man.
So since you guys are so activist and political, I mean, I think you've had some kind of backlash. I remember when I interviewed you, one of you, because I interviewed four or five of you that day, said that you guys were playing somewhere outdoors, I think in a park, and a freaking black helicopter came upon you.
Oh, oh yeah,
Yeah, let's talk about that. Like a lot of people don't know about black helicopters,
yeah.
but
So,
it's
yeah.
when you see a black helicopter and there's no military thing or police thing on it, it's black ops.
Oh my
And
God, very
so if
eerie.
that happened to you guys, people were checking you out because you were activists.
Yeah.
So tell
Very.
me about that incident.
So yeah, I mean, the '90s, man. It was the '90s was like I felt. It was like not only with so much gun activity and so much gang warfare, but also the activism very, very. I mean, there was just seemed to be so many things going on. Like I was a punk rocker, like who studied anarchism, and turns out anarchism is actually inspired by indigenous ways, by the way. So it's a full circle. But uh, I've had interactions back in the '80s with like RCP, which was like they were very present in the '80s and the '90s, very active, very. They did October 22nd and police brutality event every October. But the only thing is that they're almost so proselytizing, very so dogmatic, but their hearts were trying to uplift poor people, connect people's struggles. So they put on this event in Nickerson Gardens. And if you know Nickerson Gardens, you know it's a very hot area. And they had a stage. So I feel that because of their activities, because of what they did, and then they invited us, I think that they were being surveilled because of RCP. And so when we performed, and people might not believe this or not, and whatever, but there was a helicopter, and it was like a mini helicopter. It was silent because it was outdoors, like in the middle of Nickerson Gardens, and it was a high stage, right? And it had tinted windows. It was silent. That's what was eerie about it. It was silent and compact and small. It wasn't no drone because it was before drones. It was like, man navigated, right? So and it came above us, and we're performing. It came above us, and it went in front of the stage, and it just literally like like as if it was taking pictures, like, and it was silent. Oh man, it was the most eerie thing, and all of a sudden just leaves. Like I'm like,
Wow.
what the hell? Like it was wild, man. Like wild, man. So I think because of their activities and because of uh and then we were there, like I think that we just was a they were probably checking it all out and they probably came back, but after that we like we rolled out, we're like we're out of here. So you just say like, but I mean we just want to make sure that we don't know what's going on, we don't know, what I'm saying? You want to make sure that you protect yourself as well, you know what I'm saying? So that's yeah, the trip, you remembered that, yeah, and so yeah, that happened.
It really hit home. I couldn't believe it. I mean, I could believe it.
No, no, it's just, we've almost been run off the road a couple of times, I mean, we're coming back from shows, I think from Frisco, and then one of us, like, because we were caravanning, one of us left a little beforehand, so they're like 5, 10 minutes in front of us. We were driving probably near Santa Cruz or something, and there was this guy like trying to run us off the road, really, and we were just freaking out because he was just doing hand gestures. We didn't know what was going on, and then he takes off, and we're all freaked out because we're all scared because we felt like we were going to get run off the road, and then a few minutes later, the person that was 5, 10 minutes ahead of us was calling us, telling us that somebody was trying to run them off the road.
Oh yeah.
And the same thing, same with the hand gestures and all this, and it's things like that. I don't know the other one where there was a van. Remember, I don't know if you want to tell about that one. Van came out from trying to
Oh yeah.
swipe you guys.
Yeah, like we do this event, the Santa Colonial event every year, and we were leaving, and then this van came and hit us, and we spin, in the freeway. It was like right past the 710 on the 5, like right around Commerce, and then it's just like as if it was trained because they were like hit us in the head in the front, and then we spinning, and then it just drove off, like got off the off. It was just crazy. But I got one other story real quick. Speaking of this, and now if you remember this one, so what was the LAPD that became rogue, and he was on and there was a manhunt for him. He was
I
African.
remember that. I remember that.
Yeah.
So I was reminded of this because Dave Chappelle had a similar experience, right? So this darn it, his name is the tip of my tongue, but okay, know that we have supported Mumia Abu Jamal in the past, right? Abu Jamal is a political prisoner because he allegedly killed a law enforcement in the early '80s, right? And so we had been supporting him, and we knew that we came out on a police list. It's like an anti-police list, right? And so we knew that, and so we ended up. Oh yeah, Christopher Dorner. It was Christopher Dorner who they were looking for. So we had this gig, and it was the same time that they were looking for Christopher Dorner, and they hadn't found him yet, right? And so I work with probation youth, and I work with DCFS youth at the time, and at the time I couldn't get a hold of any probation youth, probation officers, because they're like, sorry, because they have all law enforcement on high alert, because of course Christopher Dorner, they're not accessible. So I'm like, oh, okay. And we happen to have a little small gig, and it was at Eastside Love. It was at Eastside Love, and it was remember this? And we had this gig, and we got there early, just check in, and we were just gonna do a hip hop set, not the band, even though we had already had the band. We're just gonna do a hip hop set, and it was Caxo and I, and because Caxo he would do some lyrics too, and like we were just gonna do just a little quick show, like a little hip hop show, right? So we were about to do the show, and then they're like, "Hey, hey, like, please want to talk to you." Like, what? So then we go to the door, and then Mark, I shit you not, like, so we're at the door now. If you know how Eastside Love, there's a light right there, right? There's a light. If you look out of the door, to Eastside Love there's an intersection, right? And I go out the door, and I'm at the door, and he's all, in a very friendly, most friendly way possible. He's like, hey, how you doing? You're Aztlan Underground, and he straight asked me, you guys are Aztlan Underground, right? And I was like, yeah. Like, hey, and he shook my hand. He's all, so check this out. And he was a brown cop, right? He's like, he's, look, I'm the captain of the precinct right here. He was high ranking. I forgot what did he say, man? But I'm, this is my office right here. We love the community. We love the community, man. And I just want to let you know that's why we're here. We love the community, and we do what we do because we want to keep the people safe. And as you know, we're in full force here. And motions to behind him, and then the two cop cars are on each side at the same time, like cross, yo. So you know that we're here to make everybody safe. And if you're not about keeping people safe, then like he was just very like veiled, like indirect, like but like direct. He was like, but keeping it so like so just want to let you know that we're here, and we want everything safe. Man, that was like what just happened? You know what I mean? Like it was like what just happened? And then recently I hear an interview with Dave Chappelle, and apparently he had said something in his skit about Christopher Dormer, and something about one of the things, right? And so he was flying in for an awards thing, and apparently in his limo or whatever, when he was getting picked up, they're like, "Hey, you know that you are on a high profile list, and because they're searching for Dormer, you need to be made aware that what you commented in one of your skits, like." So they were really on point, like surveilling and letting people know, hey, like if you're anti-police in any shape, way, or form, we know who you are, and like they were trying to, in other words, to keep people suppressed and keep people. They were feeling under threat. It was, and I heard that recently in an interview. I go, that's what happened that night.
Show their presence.
Is that the guy that they wound up getting? He was in the mountains or something in a
Yeah,
cabin and they burned it
Big
down or
Bear.
something?
They
Yeah,
burned him alive.
burned him alive. Yeah, in Big Bear.
They
Yeah,
didn't want him alive. They didn't want him being caught, and
yeah,
they
exactly.
wanted to just erase him.
So that's wild. So they were probably like, okay, search for any of these artists, like, because they might try to create like even more resistance. It is bizarre. Like so it was like it was the most. It was creepy. Honestly, it was creepy.
In today's climate, it's worse now than ever.
Yeah.
Right, right.
So when I interviewed you last, most of you, if not all of you, were dressed in kind of indigenous clothing, and it was you, right? Yeah, that had the black hand on the face.
Yeah.
Explain that whole thing and where that originates.
Yeah. So now it's known for the MMIW, murder missing indigenous women, especially if it's red. But at the time when I began sporting it, it was inspired by Anishinaabe, aka Ojibwe, painting that I saw with the black hand on a warrior's face, and in the caption it said that the black hand was to protect the warrior when they were in battle, right? So I feel like we've been at war since 1492, and we continue to be at war. So there was like a protection thing, but also it was also like asserting our indigeneity. So that was one of the first motives for it. But then as started, realizing that the five continents of the five habitable continents of the world. They're like five, right? So it represents all of the world. It also represents that they're trying to shut us up, but we're still speaking out. It also represents like fertility, like for many people, like many nations, like the hand sign is a fertility sign. It means that they're promoting pro-life, pro another world, right? And so like So it's all these things that for me it means, but then oh, and it's also 500 years, 500 plus years of indigenous resistance, it's like, and that's what it's represented. So
And what
like,
is
yeah,
used to paint it on your face? What do you use?
what I use just a black I think it's like black oil paint, I think. Yeah, and I just put it on there, and I know I wish I had a little spray, a little stencil, because it's like always takes time to get it right, and sometimes it looks all chueco like that. So yeah, yeah. But lately I've been changing to black lines or tonte kudli, because I'm Masawa, my dad's side, and he was his representation meant life giving, and as well, because in the Mesoamerican symbology, they're not necessarily gods; they're more like lessons. They're more like ideas, and because I want to also respect the fact that a lot of a lot of people are wearing the hand for MMIW, and I also do represent that too. But also, I want to make sure that people know that that is really meaningful more for that than how I sport it. You know what I mean? I just want to take away from the MMIW. So,
Now, was that hand from a particular tribe that did it, or did more than one tribe do that?
I mean, there's very likely probably more than one tribe did it, but that one was inspired by Anishinaabe, and I did ask permission from this sister Cheryl Edwards about it. I said, "Yo, like I understand this is part of your tradition, and that's the way you do it. If you do it in a respectful way, it's not like you're appropriating. Although I've been called out, like we were at Standing Rock, and there's one. When were you there? There's one older woman like again, is that the whole anti Chicanos are native thing, like, why are you wearing that? Who told you that? Like they were just like coming at me, like, and I was like, whoa, like what? Whoa. I was like, but I mean, I think if your heart is about it, and I think our work just demonstrates, I think that's your intention behind what you do is what makes it real for what your expression. So it's just part of my expressions, you know.
Well, speaking of expressions, as far as your musical expression, you guys have so many different elements, right? Like I said, you got the heavy rock band, you got the native instruments. I heard one track that you guys were doing reggae. It was a reggae groove, really cool.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, the Elton,
Oh,
yeah, the Leones Negros. They're a reggae group, Atletas Campesinos. They're like a reggae group out of Querétaro. Yeah, yeah, and yeah, you saw that as a
I
trip.
love that. I love that groove.
Yeah,
It was fantastic.
yeah,
So you have so many different elements that you're using in your rap,
yeah, yeah.
and but now sometimes you combine everything. Do you do like all that with the native instruments, or it's usually native instruments or the other?
I mean, most of the times, we incorporate, like,
yeah,
yeah, it's kind of our signature, like.
right. We'd like to just add that on to whatever we
Mhm.
can that would work because if I may be so bold to speak for everybody, it's our way of like finding our own identity in a sense. And I think, again, just if anything, doing this is a search for, for our identity. How do we find our way, our own special way towards with everybody and everything? So using the instruments, it has its importance, which actually lately, like Carlos Ninos and all that,
Oh yeah.
we've been gifted to be asked to record
Oh
with
yeah.
other artists that are from
Glad
other
you
cultures and
glad you brought
Nice.
that up. Yeah,
yeah. So
yeah. And
I
yeah,
know,
we performed with Andre 3000 of he recently released an album that is all like flute based, and many of the flutes that he's bought, interesting circle, right? Our original DJ Bean, Javier Martinez, his brother Guillermo Martinez, Memo Martinez he's a well-known drum maker, flute maker, instrument maker, and he got on the radar of Andre 3000. And actually, many of his flutes are made by Guillermo Memo Martinez. And so, but Carlos Nino, he's the one that recorded our Unearthed album. And we did it actually 10 years ago at KBFK Studios because he saw us perform once and he wanted to bring us in. And we just like, we went in there and man, and we came up with like, what was it, 7 tracks? Like,
Yeah.
so Carlos Nino, though, was already working with Andre 3000. So we actually opened up, we actually collaborated with Andre 3000 at the Greek Theater when he performed just, what was it, September or what was it?
Around that time late
Yeah,
last year.
yeah, late last year. Like, and so, and then this last, what, earlier this month, or April, right? We got to invited to record with a famous like spoken word legend known as Saul Williams, right? And we just that was amazing. So it's been great. We've been branching out into through the instrumentation.
Yeah, again with the instruments, with that, that search for our identity, again. And not necessarily in a traditional way, because honestly, I don't know like traditional Aztec cadences on the wewet. We've been influenced by listening to them, but I've actually been looked at funny from of danzantes, because who is this guy? Like it's not like traditional, and
Do you throw in some Afro-Cuban licks on the where?
not that I know of, but I'm sure,
Hey, man.
exactly. Hey, but no, but
Like you say, it's really beautiful when the other cultures come together.
exactly.
I don't know if you guys are familiar with a record I made back in 1972. It's called I'm Brown, a song I wrote.
You showed me that song,
Yeah.
yeah. You
And
post,
I'm proud of the verse because it's a very much a Chicano pride song and kind of a protest song. But the chorus says, "Don't you know I'm brown? Can't you see my face? But I'm first a member of the human race." That's what
exactly,
it comes
Yes,
down to.
right
exactly.
there,
We
man.
Look
can
at,
all get
Oh
together,
yeah,
man.
100%. Yeah,
yeah.
that's what's up,
That's
Mark.
exactly it right there. You said it
Yeah,
all in
yeah,
a few
exactly.
words.
So that's who we're fighting against. We're fighting against you know who we're fighting against, the racists and all that.
Our own identity and
Yeah.
in the whole spectrum of things.
So I think I covered everything I was thinking of covering. Is there anything else either one of you would like to say? Maybe each of you maybe should have something you'd like to say. What's going on for the future? You guys have any gigs coming up? Any shows?
We have a couple of recordings that we want to come out with. There's been a big time span when we didn't have a guitarist, so we've been trying to work with what we had. So we've made like a handful of songs, probably like, and in the span of probably like 10 years or so, because there was a long time where we didn't have a guitar, so we made like a three just bass, drums, and vocals uh, songs. We've made these songs that we've been wanting to record and put out, and that's something that we're looking forward to put out, to record actually. And it's really just drums, bass, and vocals, but it really sounds like a whole full band, like it's more based on the heavy rock thing, but
Yeah. In terms of your band's timeline, just so I can understand, so you formed around 89, 90, Aztlan Underground, and you were super active for how many years would you say? The first time?
What the?
never stopped,
I know we never
really.
stop, really.
Never
Yeah,
really
Yeah,
stopped?
it's been like an ongoing thing,
yeah,
like
yeah.
really.
Huh,
Yeah,
good.
whether it's creating or performing
Or
or
presenting workshops.
yeah, or
Yeah.
something. There's always something going on, which is beautiful because honestly, like the getting on a record label, being able to uh and like touring and stuff, it just feels like honestly like I feel like it was a blessing not to take that route because I think it would have really kept us if
Yeah, yeah,
unless
yeah.
I may be wrong, but kept us from really like being there for the community, and I think this group's just is mostly about that, community centers, the community come, and what better way to voice them, to tell the community and to have, music and all that and support them, and different benefits for for families who've had family members shot at by cops, by gang killings, by things like that, you know. And I think if we were in a big old, you know, rock band touring the world, I don't think we would have been able to do those kind of things as much, you know. Like you're like under contract with this
Right.
money making machine that, you know, would not probably allow that, you know, or you know, hold it against you. Oh, you've signed this
Right.
agreement, whatever, you know, where you can't really do those things. Like, and it's like, F that. That's the whole reason for doing what we're doing, you know, like, you
So
know,
is it fair to say that maybe you were more active gig wise and touring wise in the 90s and you kind of reverted, you changed into a thing where you mixed it up with community stuff, workshops, recording, stuff like that, but you always stayed active.
yes,
Yeah, yeah,
always,
yeah,
yeah,
definitely.
it's definitely feels like it's always been more about that, you know.
So you're playing live a lot less these days.
Yeah, like actually, kind of. Yeah, we are
Yeah,
playing less. We get invited here and there. We get invited outside of LA more than we do in LA, right? And so we like, for example, we got invited to go to Argentina, Chile, and Brazil. But right now, too, like a lot of us are dealing with like, we're at that age we're dealing with elder. My parents passed away already, rest in peace. But a lot of the other members are dealing with their spouses, elder, or caregiving. Other members like their father, their mom just passed. Like same thing, Gacho, like he's dealing with, a lot of caregiving, right? So that also doesn't allow us to like, want to really pursue, okay, because I could pursue that, but that's what's interesting. Like our shows are more out of LA,
Right.
uh, which
So
is
you never been to, as of now, you haven't been to South America.
only
Venezuela.
Venezuela. Yeah,
Wow.
we've been in Venezuela. Yeah, yeah. So under Chavez, when we went, yeah. So, and that was interesting stuff.
Oh boy, I'll tell you.
Very interesting.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah. So, but we would like to go, farther down, all the way down. So yeah. So, but we'll see. We'll explore that. You know what I mean, and see where we're at. But, but in a way, it's allowing us to, um, work on. You were trying to write. We just moved to a new space. And also, like he said, we're about to do a demo with our guitarist. Of the Unearthed because we call it AU3 because it was just him, myself, and Joe. During COVID, no one would go to practice, like not everybody. And the guitarists wouldn't go to practice at the time. Remember our other, so we end up just creating this body of work, like right, like because we're the only ones during COVID that would still go and enter a room together and write. And so it's a very interesting. It's very I don't know how to describe it. It's kind of prog, kind of heavy. Um, uh, yeah, it's just different, and even the lyrical, it's not as direct, political, but it's definitely meaningful. Like but it's just a whole nother realm, and so that's one thing we want to finish writing, and but also we want to do a hip hop project and do that. So we're like working on new material. So it gives us that time too, though, because of we only practice like once a week right now, right? And so we would try to like write. Now we're getting back into writing now that we're having this time to be able to kind of create a new body of work, right? So we're trying to work on what that comes out and what that looks like. But right now we're trying to hip hopify it, I guess, and we really don't limit ourselves. So it's everything actually.
Yeah, like you know, you work on some things for a while, and then it's beautiful to just be able to shift it, you know, and then just go into something else and so forth. There's no limits in that sense, you know. I mean, it's all urban music, so it's all like
Urban, yeah.
relevant for us now, you know, like where before, like I remember in the 80s, even before before you had MP3s,
Oh yeah.
like, you know, you had your rockers and you had your punkers and you had your ravers, you know, your disco heads. Like now, like with the new generation, all that music is all mixed together and it's beautiful and it's all urban music, you know. So like, you know, and so we embrace that in a sense, you know, or it took me a long time to do that. You know, I again, thanks for being around you then. I was able to embrace different types of styles of music. I was really aesthetical, hard-headed rock, metal,
Yeah,
you know, and but now, like it's like shift it, like, and even if you're
Yeah.
not good at it, you shift it and you learn and you enjoy it, you have fun with it,
It keeps it interesting and fresh,
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
So I think that's about all I got. You guys, anything else you'd like to say?
no,
No, okay.
that's good, man.
Yeah, I think
Well, I'd like to say that I very much admire your guys' work, what you do. I love your activism, your pro-indigenous stance, and I just think it's great and beautiful what you do.
thank you.
Thank you for inviting us to your important show and your legacy of work and everything you've done, man, and your family. Thank you, man. Thank you. Thank you for including us
Yes,
in
yes.
here, and you're being so real. Like you're bringing out all this
Yeah,
stuff,
love
man.
it.
That we were, yeah, man, about the helicopter and all that. That's a trip. Yeah, that was really we were shocked. So that's a trip you remembered that. Yeah, yeah,
Of course.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
One thing I just wanted to say, because we were talking about it earlier, but I just with talking with them, like it reminded me of when I was a kid and I was like, probably again 13, 15 years old. We'd ride or actually more 10 to 15, we'd ride our bikes around that area right under the Pino, and I mean, this was like probably like probably late 70s, but I would I literally rode my Huffy bike once, and if memory serves me, because it could be wrong and I might be exaggerating it, but I remember Los Lobos. They literally practiced like in that alleyway. I could hear them practicing like on, in the backyard of a house, a couple of houses away from El Pino. Then I would keep on going on that same alley, and halfway through it on the right was the brat rehearsing, the brat, and then you'd keep on going and you'd hit row one, and then you'd go down to Brooklyn, and then you make a left, and then Los Illegals would be practicing
Wow.
yeah, at a
You always have stories I never heard. Oh my God.
and at the time I had no idea, I just like,
Yeah.
oh, there's a band here, there's a band there, and then there's a band over there. It was self-help graphics at the time, I think.
Right. And there's called the Vex. They called it the Vex.
The
The Vex,
Vex,
the Vex.
man.
Yeah, that was like 79, 80,
Right.
maybe
Oh my
somewhere.
God,
So
man.
just I remember we are talking about, Boyle Heights and all that, and just,
Yeah, yeah.
that was
Oh, yeah. That was a nice era for East LA too.
Oh yeah, man. I'm
definitely,
telling you,
yeah.
man. East LA, man.
East
Like,
LA, baby.
yeah, exactly.
So thanks, guys. Appreciate you doing the show. I've been wanting to do this
Yeah.
for a while, and appreciate it.
Thanks
All
for
right.
having us.
Yeah,
Same
thank
here.
you.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
man. Thank you,
And
Mark. It's a
all
great
the
honor.
all the history you've made. 100 years from now, they're gonna look back at your podcasts and get the stories of all those bands that you've did podcasts with, and get the actual story. Like
'Cause otherwise, the stories would disappear, man.
exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
exactly.
That's why I do it. That's why I love doing it.
Yeah, a lot of the people that you've uh, uh, filmed or and interviewed, like, have unfortunately passed, and
Yeah, many have
got
already.
their stories. I always see that that you mentioned their passings and stuff, and you had a chance to take those in, man. That's really doing the work, man. I just want to thank you for that.
You're
Yeah,
welcome, man.
Redbone, right? Because Redbone has a East LA presence too. That's
Oh,
great.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's dope, man.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Pat and Lolly Vegas, their real name is Vasquez. They
yeah.
lived in East LA for a while. They went to Roosevelt for a little while.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
your
really?
buddy. See,
I didn't know that.
yeah, no,
Yeah.
I went to
that's
Roosevelt.
I went to Roosevelt.
I
Yeah,
did.
man. Hopefully we'll have some enchiladas at Cinco Puntos.
Yeah, let's
Definitely.
do it, man.
Join us sometime on stage, Mark.
Yeah,
Yeah,
let me know next time you play live. I'd like to go check you
Yeah.
guys.
that'd be sick. That'd be sick. Yeah,
Yeah.
man.
Cool, man.
Thank you, Mark.
Take care, man. Thank you, guys.
You too. Thank you, Mark. Take care.
You too.